Hey Maggie,
Hey, what?
what do you call a cow that just had a baby?
I don't know what.
Decaffeinated.
I don't get it.
Hello everybody and welcome to Engage, a family gaming podcast. This is episode 150. And I am your host, Stephen Duetzmann. As always, this is the official video game and board game podcast for EngageFamilyGaming.com. EFG is a website where parents like myself and my co-hosts come together to give parents and families the information they need to get their family game on. This week, it's Board Game Week. And I am joined by two very special guests. One, not so much a guest. She's one of the permanent co-hosts. That is Linda Roble, our board game editor. Linda, how are you?
I'm doing well. Hello, everyone.
And you are minus how many walls right now in your home?
Many. We have
walls.
Many walls are down. They have framed up some support temporarily till beams can be put in so that walls don't fall down and roofs don't fall down. But it is quite the project of destruction.
Sure. Because who wouldn't want that? So those folks who are interested in keeping up on the struggles, they can follow you on Instagram, and that would be, what is it?
It is Dragon Rose 720.
720. Okay.
Yes. And as we go through, as new things happen, I am posting updates and photos and a little description of what is transpiring with the house. So it's quite exciting.
Yeah, and you're a good follow on Instagram anyway, by nature of the fact that you do post a lot of cool stuff. You're a teacher, you're a board game editor. There's a lot of stuff going on. So you got some good stuff going on. So definitely a good follow there. But the specialist of special guests, we have Erin Dean. You are, it's exciting because you are both an author and soon to be museum curator.
I'm thinking executive director,
okay.
But almost close. But yeah, thank you so much for having me on the show.
Super hyped to have you on here. You're wearing many hats, and you're doing the media tour, to kind of, wrap up your Kickstarter for your book, and you've started this, some would say, insane process of creating a museum for board games. That's going to be the back half of the show. I want to talk about your book because I am fascinated with, the process of, gathering up all these creators and interviewing them, etc. That must have been an interesting logistical process just to get that all done. And then I want to talk about this museum because I want to go there one day, so I want to know what to expect.
Awesome. That sounds great.
But before we do that, I do want to take a moment to thank our listeners. Thank you very much for listening this week. We hope the games you've been playing have been great. I'm still playing Spider-Man, so that makes the games I'm playing by default awesome. We do want to make our podcast more interactive, though. So please feel free to reach out to us on social media. The very best way to reach us is to hit us up on Facebook at facebook.com/engagefamilygaming. Leave us a message, and myself, my producer, or one of our other community managers will respond to you. We like topics, feedback, comments, questions, etc. Nothing's off limits. Well, I'm not going to say nothing's off limits, people, but come on. So, I should know better. I create content on the internet. I should know better than to say nothing is off limits. But come on, guys. Be reasonable. So, this week it's board games. So, why don't we go around the horn? Have either of you played anything interesting recently? Erin, I think you've been on a Marvel kick, to my understanding.
I have. This weekend I had some friends over and we played Hail Hydra, which is a party social deduction game. It's kind of like Secret Hitler meets Marvel. Okay. And very fun. I really like the components in the game. I love the fact that at any point in the game you can reveal that you're a Hydra agent and say Hail Hydra and flip over your loyalty disc and say, yep, I'm on the bad side, but I'm going to damage the city 5 times. And you can play that strategically and announce it strategically. And I've been having a lot of fun with that, playing that. And then I recently picked up a game. Like you said, I've been on a Marvel kick. And I picked up a game called 5 Minute Marvel, which is the sequel to a game called 5 Minute Dungeon.
Okay.
And it's a game that you have to defeat all the bosses in 5 minutes. And it comes with a companion app, and this particular game has all Marvel bosses and Marvel heroes you play, and I'm really excited to play it.
Oh my goodness, it's in my cart right now.
Awesome.
Like, literally, you haven't even played it, and you described it to me, and I was like, I'm all in. So, yeah, oh my goodness, yeah, I literally just threw it in my cart.
My friends always get mad at me because I'm always telling them or teaching them new games, and they're like, well, where'd my money go? And I live in St. Louis, where Miniature Market is literally 5 minutes from me, so it's very dangerous. It's very dangerous.
That's right. They have a storefront, right?
Yep, that opened up in April or March of this year, and yeah, they have a superstore where you can order all you want and then just say pick up in St. Louis. So I don't pay for shipping. So sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. You know what I mean?
So it's always good. It's just dangerous. It's always great.
Exactly.
Board games are awesome, but your checkbook gets real mad. I'm sure.
Oh yeah, the maddest.
It's just the maddest. And your shelves also get angry. But whatever, they're inanimate objects. We don't have to worry about their feelings. So yeah, that's
right.
Man, 5 Minute Marvel. Just the art. Listen, for the folks listening, we obviously can't describe the art on this game super well. But it is cute, and it is, it's got a wide variety of Marvel characters. Obviously, it's focused on the Avengers, but it has Squirrel Girl in it, Ms. Marvel, Spider-Gwen. Those are some deep cuts. Although I guess Spider-Gwen and Squirrel Girl are getting less deep cut as the years go by. But do you know? Wait, actually, this is the true test. Linda, do you know who Squirrel Girl is?
I have heard of her.
Okay, that's the Linda test. We have this thing, Erin, called the Linda test, where if Linda has heard of them, it's not really that deep of a cut anymore.
Oh, really? I love it. I like that.
It's our version of the mom test, and I mean that with the utmost love and respect, Linda. You know that, but
oh, of course.
But she's also a first grade teacher, so she knows more about Fortnite than probably either of us combined.
That's awesome.
For better or for worse. Can you do the dances yet, though, Linda?
Thankfully, that's the only part of Fortnite my kids have been talking about.
All right,
both my children at home and my children at school.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I'll take it.
It's crazy. The local library is doing a program where they're having a local dance studio come in and teach the kids how to do it. I'm going to go because I want to learn how to do the Orange Justice or whatever the crap it is. I don't know. It'll make good Instagram content, right? Like, that's really what it is. I'm one of those. So anyway, 5 Minute Marvel. I didn't know it existed, Erin, until you told me, and you basically just sent me a bill for $24.
Well, I can't say I'm sorry. I don't know.
You're not, you know what? Don't apologize. It's great. That of all the things you could have done, that's really not the worst. Let's talk about this Miniature Market. So you can go online, you buy from Miniature Market, and just pick up at the store. Is it just like a window and you just pop up, or is there like a store where you can browse?
Oh, it's a big store. I mean, I think it has like, I don't know, like 5,000 square feet, 4,000 square feet. So it's like a big store, and then the other half of it is a huge gaming area. So like,
that's awesome.
I actually host a board game night twice a week on Mondays and Wednesday nights there. So I run their board game club, and yeah, it's a great place, and it's definitely my friendly local gaming store, that's for sure.
That is a very large, friendly local game store. But hey, you know what? If you got Miniature Market in your backyard, you got to take advantage of it. So that sounds awesome to me. Linda, road trip?
That might be a thing. Summer road trip.
Let's just go. Well, I mean, we eventually have to go because we got to go to this museum. So,
true.
So Linda, what have you played? You've been playing some older stuff.
Yes, I've done older stuff, but I did pull out one game that I actually got last fall at BFIG, called Takeout it's called Takeout, and it's a card game. And the premise is you're trying to basically make a set of food. So you're trying to collect 6 different kinds of food with your cards.
Is this from
Sweet,
Yana
sour.
Moana games?
No, this is from Small Monsters games. So this is something that they had. I think it had just come off a Kickstarter last year, but
Okay.
I'm not certain on that fact. But you're trying to collect different types of foods, and so it's basically just draw. You can have event cards that do different things. It's a pretty straightforward game. Nice light beer and pretzels kind of game.
Did you play it with the
or
boys?
Juice boxes and.
Yeah, I was about
What
to
was
say. Did you play it with the boys?
No, I actually was at my sister-in-law's and we were playing it with the adults first to just get the flavor of it. But definitely something I can play with the boys. So it's either beer and pretzels or juice boxes and cookies.
I mean, that sounds good to me. You're getting ready to go to BFIG this weekend, huh?
I am.
And you're going without me this time because I have to go to a wedding.
Yes, you will be sorely missed.
You'll be all right. You can handle it. It's just MIT. I mean, really, you'll be fine.
Yes.
I have not played anything new, although I have a giant stack of games because Breaking Games sent me Expand City, which, by the way, the box on Expand City it's like 4 pizza boxes stacked on top of each other. Erin, this game is bananas big.
Oh yeah, I actually, one of my fellow board gamers at Miniature Market played it. I was playing another game, but I saw it set up and it looked, I could definitely see it being a super heavy box.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. You know what? It's not as heavy as I expected it. When I got home, the box came in and my son took it out of the box and left it on the table. And, I expected it to be this big, just monstrous thing. And it's really not that crazy heavy. It's just ginormous because of all the pieces and, all that stuff.
Right. The components are really cool.
Oh, they really are, right? It really feels... I mean, I have not gotten it to the table yet because there's just been so much shenanigans. I'm hoping soon because obviously we have to review it. They sent it to us. But it is, the components look amazing. It really has, that Sim City feel. So I'm hoping... that it is able to emulate that, obviously, in some way. But Erin, have you played Pioneer Days from Tasty Minstrel?
Oh, I picture the box art because I remember looking at it in the Miniature Market website.
Yeah.
But no, I haven't personally played it. Is it any good?
I would recommend it, yes. So I can say that. I don't think I've talked about that in depth on the podcast. It's Oregon Trail. I mean, it's not Oregon Trail, the board game, because there is literally an Oregon Trail, the board game.
Right, right.
But this is another Oregon Trail themed game where you are essentially, you are playing a settler that is traveling through the West, trying to get to the West Coast. It's done over a series of 4 weeks. What I find interesting about it, and this is what I definitely recommend it to folks, especially people who really like kind of engine building games, because that's really, to me, that's what it felt like. It's one of those games that it is super fun. It looks more intimidating than it is.
Yeah,
it's like when you set all the pieces up and you start reading the rules. This is one of those ones that you might be tempted to just say, "Oh man, this is too much," and just put it away after you get it set up.
That makes me think of Dinosaur Island. Oh yeah. My gosh, is that a monster to set up? But once you are taught the game, it's really simple.
Yeah, I mean that's another one that one of these days. I mean they'll reprint it at some point. With Pioneer Days, it's literally my advice to everybody, and I think I'm sure somebody will have it at a table at Miniature Market at some point. Force yourself to go through 2 turns. That's the best I can say. Just do 2 turns and then restart if you feel like you have to. It is so fun. It's really neat just the way that everything's balanced because it's to a degree it's semi-cooperative in one portion of every person's turn. But then the rest of the time it's all, you're getting everybody. So it's really interesting that you have to compete, but every once in a while you got to kind of be well, we got to cooperate so that we don't screw all of ourselves over.
That's cool.
Yeah, I really dig that. Because normally, it's either a gotcha game or it's not. This one, it kind of depends on what phase of the turns and things like that. I think it's really neat. And that's Pioneer Days from Tasty Minstrel. Full disclosure, they did send us that for review, but man, it is really good. I highly recommend it, Erin. And Linda, I don't know, have you played that with us?
Not yet. We have to get a game day on the calendar.
Yeah, we actually do. Well, I mean,
that'll be good while you and John are chilling out and trying to recover.
Yeah, when we're both hurt. Well, I should be recovered within 3 days. He's the one that's going to be laid up for however long.
3 months.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that's just about everything. We're getting into the holiday season. The only game that's on the horizon, other than 5 Minute Marvel, that's on the horizon is Reef, that I'm probably going to be picking up. Have you played Reef, Erin?
I've been wanting to get it to the table. I don't own it, but I remember it came out at Origins, and I was really intrigued by it. But
it's like the end of this week. It should be at friendly local game stores. Yeah, Reef is one of those. It's by the same people that made Azul, Linda.
Yep, and I own that one. That's good.
Azul, we gotta get. We actually have to have a copy of it in one of our houses at some point. I think it's safe to assume that Christmas will not happen without one of our families having that game. I think
you're probably right with that.
I think because that's Erin. It's funny because Linda and I, obviously there are some companies that send us stuff, but there are many that don't, and our wish lists are very small, but we're focused.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I think that's around the horn, folks. This is what I would say. If there are games you want us to talk about, even older ones, throw us a message. Because we play games a lot. However, we want to talk about what you want us to talk about. So please send us a message on Facebook and let us know if there are older games that you want us to revisit. We would love a to-do list. Linda loves her to-do lists. Trust me.
I'm a list maker too, Linda.
Nice. I'm forbidden to give my husband lists at this point because I'm such a list person.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man, listen, Erin, I've been there when she's done the list thing. It's, it's intense.
That was years ago, though. I've learned.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
She's learned.
She's learned. We've known each other for almost
15 years.
Almost 2 decades. So that's how she's willing to put up with me, Erin. She's known me long enough. Yeah, I know. I don't know. I don't know how she does it. So, all right. So let's take a break. John can put something in, and then we'll come back. I want to, we've talked enough about, various board games. I want to talk about Erin's projects because you're working on 2 things because you obviously don't like to be bored.
No, I do not.
Yeah, that's fine. And good things are coming into the world as a result of your not wanting to be bored. So that's fine for all of us. So we'll come back. Let's talk about your book, and we'll talk about this crazy museum idea you got. How about that, guys?
That sounds great.
All right. We'll be back in a minute, folks. All right, everybody, welcome back to episode 150 of Engage, a Family Gaming Podcast. We're still here. We're still talking about board games. I'm still Steven, still here with Linda, and still here with our special guest, Erin Dean. Erin, how are you?
I'm great. I'm loving this show so far. I'm having a great time.
Good. And even if you're just saying that, it's fine. It'll play well. It plays well on the recording. So,
no, I'm serious. This is fun.
All right, good. Thank you. So I've made the joke probably too many times since we've gotten on Skype that you clearly don't like to be bored. But it's true. You have 2 very big projects. One of them is you have written and are in the process of publishing a book that is currently on Kickstarter as we speak. Let's briefly talk about that. What's your book project?
Yep. So I am the author of For the Love of Board Games, which is a book for board gamers that explores how modern popular board games were created by interviewing the designers behind the games. So I interviewed 53 designers. I wish it was an even number, but it ended up being an odd number, but that's okay. That's all right. And I interviewed a lot of the industry's top designers: Richard Garfield, Jamie Stegmaier, Bruno Catala, Reiner Knizia, Matt Leacock, just to name a few. And I started this project. Yes,
Those are some names.
And I started this project back in February of this year.
Wow. Okay.
It had been a year since I released my board game documentary, The Board Game Boom, which has over 30,000 views on YouTube. And it was basically a documentary version. Well, I shouldn't say that, but it was basically a documentary exploring how modern board games, why they're rising in a digital culture. And I was thinking to myself, man, I want to do another board game project. So I thought maybe I'll write a book. I've never written a book. And maybe it'll be fun to, interview people, but in book form. So I just reached out to some designers, did a little digging on finding their contact info.
Yep.
And I even interviewed like designers like who designer of Downforce, El Grande, some names or games that he's designed, and it's been a lot of fun, and I encourage those who are interested to check out the Kickstarter. But yes, it's coming to a close, and it's just been a project that I've been really happy to work on.
Well, it sounds awesome. I mean, so 53 designers. I mean, for those that are listening that might not know necessarily all the names, I mean, that's next level stuff to know the designers behind some of your favorite board games. Richard Garfield, for example, is the guy behind Magic the Gathering.
Just a little game.
Just a little thing. Just a little side project. I think it might have a future though, Erin. It's got some potential. But also,
it definitely does.
But he's also super prolific, and there are a lot of folks that only know him by that, but he's done tons of other stuff. He did Keyforge, right?
Yeah, well, that's his latest game that he's releasing. And he's done Robo Rally, Bunny Kingdom, a lot of different ones.
He did something with the Titan Project. What was his Titan Project game? Didn't he do a Titan game? Or have they not done his Titan game yet?
I'm not sure. I can't recall.
Yeah, either way. He's done.
It's possible.
Yeah, I mean, he is super prolific. Awesome that you got a hold of him. So 53 designers, all very, I mean, getting a hold of 53 creative types and like nailing them down to be able to interview them had to have been a scheduling nightmare. Like, how did you do that?
Well, in my day job, I'm actually a project coordinator for a video production company, and I do a lot of scheduling for our video shoots. So I love scheduling things, meaning like I love kind of putting a puzzle together, like kind of juggling. Okay, we got to be here on this date, for this shoot, and we got to take these flights. And so something like this project is right up my alley, where I kind of have to do a scheduling, what some people would call a nightmare, but I find it really fun. But yeah, I was just patient with it. I didn't have a deadline. I was just, when they could do it, if that was 4 weeks from when I contacted them, it was 4 weeks. And I just kind of took my time with it, targeted the designers that I wanted to talk to. And when it was done, it was done. And I think I wrapped up interviewing in I started in February and I was done in May.
Okay. So you're a spreadsheet type of person.
Oh, definitely. And a list maker and all that stuff. Yep.
Sure. Okay. All right. So now I understand how you did this. It was all, spreadsheets and lists. It makes total sense to me. So were there days where you were doing just back-to-back interviews?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Some of the interviews I did via Skype, and then other interviews I just did via email for the designer's convenience.
Sure.
So it was kind of 50-50.
Okay. Is there any interview that really stuck out for you as like one that you were super excited to do or that went really well?
Oh, yeah. One that comes to mind is when I interviewed Evan Derrick of Van Ryder Games.
Okay.
And we talked about his board game. It was on Kickstarter, I believe, earlier this year, called Detective City of Angels. It's kind of like a detective game set in 1940s or 50s LA.
Sure.
And we talked about the inspiration behind the game, and he talked about how his wife's bag was stolen out of their car, like her sketchbook, and she's an artist. And
Oh man.
so being the heroic husband he was, he kind of got in the mind of the robber and it was like, okay, well, I wouldn't walk down this way because the restaurant's there. I'd probably go down this dark alley and maybe I'd go this way. And he kind of almost got in the mind of the robber and he ended up finding the bag ditched in a dumpster.
Oh,
And he
wow.
was like, I want to create a game that gets where you get in the mind of a criminal or a robber and you really have to put your detective hat on. And that was one of the main inspirations for the game was this real life scenario he was in.
wow. I mean, that is wild. Really, I mean, that's got. I mean, I can't wait to read the book. So I will definitely be pre-ordering just because I want to hear some of these stories myself. I will say one of the I've got 150 episodes into this podcast. One of my favorite things has been getting some creative folks on here and like talking to them about their babies, right? Like, I find that board game designers, especially, like really take their work personally. I mean, so being able to ask them why they. I mean, Linda's heard me do it a dozen times or more, where I say, "All right, so why did you make this?" And I don't mean it in a pejorative way, right? Like you want to know, like, why this? Because if you're a game designer and you're good at it, you can make anything you wanted. So, like,
Right.
why did you make this thing? And hearing those answers is super cool. And so I am, now that I've spoken to you and kind of know where you're at, I can't wait to read this book just because I want to hear, what information you were able to pry from these creatives' minds.
Right.
Um,
And this is a book too where it's like before your game night, oh, we're playing Scythe or we're playing Escape the Curse of the Temple or whatever you're playing. You're like, "Oh, I can flip to page 53 and I'm going to read a little bit about it." And you can kind of impress all your friends with kind of the backstory of the game and like the fun facts behind the games that maybe
Sure.
they don't have insight in.
I mean, listen, insight, I mean, knowing more about why a game is the way that it is super rad. What do you think, Linda?
Well, this is just super fascinating to me. As I'm going through the list that's on Kickstarter right now, I love how you listed each designer and then the games that they've created, so it's all right there, so you can see the diversity. And seeing something like Phil Walker Harding, who did Sushi Go and Imhotep, it's like I wouldn't have thought the same
Connected.
designer,
Yeah.
connected those two, and it's so neat to see just the list, and it just makes me want to delve deeper and hear the backstories on these. So definitely a must read.
And one thing I found really interesting is like, are you a mechanic or theme guy? Are you a mechanic first or theme first? And it was really right down the middle. I'd love to almost do some like pie charts with some of the answers, and like seeing the variety of,
Would that be neat as like an appendix?
Yeah.
Something to go like break down some of the details.
Here
Yeah.
I am thinking that would make a really cool, because I mean, you have 53 people and all their games. For me, you gather enough data about all of those games, that's like a pretty reasonably sized Instagram account full of like infographics and charts and pie charts and pictures. Like for me,
Oh,
it's just like you
definitely.
could totally use that as, that could be super rad. I may or may not have started the spreadsheet. Probably not as fancy as Erin's spreadsheet. I'm sure Erin's spreadsheet game is strong. But I started working on my own Instagram project that I'll tell you about later, Linda, because you'll appreciate it. It's a STEM
Okay.
project involving Pokemon. You'll love
Oh
this.
my.
And it's a thing. We're gonna do it, and you're gonna help me. You just don't know it yet.
Clearly.
So I mean, sorry. So
It's my
Erin,
job.
Yeah, exactly. So, Erin, when you started? So you started this in February. I mean, the fact that you started this in February, and it's September. That's 7 months. Do you sleep?
That's impressive.
Do you sleep?
I do. I get 8 hours of sleep every night.
Is that? I mean, so you obviously work because you work as a production manager for a film company. Are you just super efficient? I mean, I'm like getting a huge amount of respect for you. Not that I didn't respect you to begin with, but like I'm starting to think you're like a superhero.
Well, I don't have kids at this point, and it's just me and my boyfriend, and that time that we would, spend, going to soccer games or school functions, when I have free time, I'm either playing games or working on these game projects, on the weekends and in the evenings, and it's really all about just managing your time, and it's so easy to do these projects when you're passionate about it. And I'm so passionate about board games that it just I'm driven to make the time for it.
Fair enough. And you know what? I say, oh my goodness, how'd you find the time? And here I am running a website and recording a podcast with 150 episodes. So it's not, we're kindred spirits. I wish I had an eighth of your drive. I would probably be doing this full time. So that's your book. So the Kickstarter is going to be over before this goes live. But you had mentioned something before we formally started recording that you're going to still do pre-orders. The Kickstarter is just getting it published, but you're going to still do more.
Yep. So if you missed the campaign, which it will be done by the time you hear this, you can still go to the Kickstarter page and pre-order. There will be a pre-order button at the top that you can still get the book with the Kickstarter backers.
Awesome. That's awesome. I'm in on that. And I think everybody should. So, we'll definitely put a link to that'll appear on the Kickstarter page when it's completed.
Yep.
Okay, good. So we'll make sure that we put a link to that in the show notes so that folks can take a look at that. I think that is I think that's definitely something that some of our listeners will want to take a look at. I certainly know I do, at the very least, so it'll be a good reminder for me. So that's your first board game project. Your second board game project is that you are starting a museum, a board game museum, specifically a national board game museum. That's an enormous undertaking. Why on earth would you do that to yourself?
Oh, I asked myself that. I think I pride myself in is I try to find projects that no one else is doing for this industry.
Sure.
With this book, just with the success of the Kickstarter, it's told me that people are kind of craving this type of content, this behind the scenes type of content to games. They want to know more. They want to, experience more about games. And, I was still working on my book, and I was, coming up. I always come up with ideas. Whether they're good or not, that's another question. But one of the ideas I had was there should be a professional networking group for board game marketers, and I kind of looked into that a little bit, and I'm like, it kind of dawned on me, is there even a museum for board games? And I did a little research, and I was getting like two results. The Strong Museum, which has a little has a games exhibit, and they have the largest collection of board games in a museum. They're the National Museum of Play, but board games is, far from their focus. They do toys, dolls, just play, in general. And then there's another museum in Oregon, and they focus on games and puzzles. But what they're doing, it's kind of far from the vision I have for the National Board Game Museum. They're a museum where you kind of walk in. It's almost like a cafe, a board game bar and cafe, where you can just go in and take games off the shelves and play them. It's not really it's still a nonprofit, but it's not the museum that I'm picturing. So there weren't a lot of results when I did research, and I'm like, I kind of sat with the idea for a few days, and then I just had this feeling in my stomach, like, I have to do this. I can't not do this. So, and that was 2 months ago. So here I am now, and we've made some progress. We've filed for incorporation. We're filing for 501c3 status very soon. I've been forming my board of directors. And we're going to be starting fundraising soon. And it's just a lot of, I've been telling people it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So That's kind of the approach I'm taking to it.
Sure. So, I mean, this is obviously going to have a physical location.
Yes, yes.
All right. I mean, that was an assume, but I had to ask it. And so it's going to be nearby to you in St. Louis.
Not totally definite, but it's probably going to end up in St. Louis. Yes.
Sure. Okay. So, so I can understand, when moving as the spirit moves you. So I get that, and clearly there is a need, because there really isn't one, and board games have a really interesting history, and they have one that, there are some, as I am sure you have found out over the last handful of months. I mean, there are a lot of stuff that's somewhat contentious, some things that are not necessarily agreed upon. This gives a real opportunity for some real research to be done, and to really provide some really cool information in a really interesting way. So my background is in anthropology, so like the idea of having a real place where we can, like this stuff can be kind of studied and displayed and kind of put together to really show kind of the heritage of board games, like where they came from, where they're going. I think that sounds awesome. So you're assembling your board of directors now. Like, do you have any idea what kind of content you want to include in this thing yet? Do you have like a dream board yet, where in your mind kind of where you want to go, or are you just saying we're making a museum? There's obviously stuff that is worthwhile putting in this museum, but I don't know what it is yet.
I mean, I definitely have a vision for what I, being a gamer, would like the museum to include, but I also think that the possibilities are endless with this museum. There really are so many different avenues we can go on, and this is a museum that I want every time you come there to be something new and something fresh, and it's not going to be your museum where it's like the same old every single time you come in. It's going to have rotating exhibits, and our intention is that we want to be a please touch museum, not a please don't touch museum. Obviously there's going to be early versions of games where obviously people can't like get their fingerprints all over it, but overall we want to be a super interactive museum where people can not only learn but play.
Sure. That sounds great to me. I mean, well, the good news is, we, what with 3D printing and, the quality that can be, generated with modern craftsmanship, like we could probably create some pretty reasonable replicas of some of those old games, so that people can really kind of play with something similar, even if they're not playing with the exact same stuff. That sounds perfectly reasonable to me. I mean, have you secured any, interesting, artifacts yet? Like maybe even verbally, people saying, "Yeah, I've got this thing, you can have it."
Not yet. We're kind of on the brink of that process. So, we're going to be creating a collection development plan with some people, and we're going to be talking about, kind of what our guidelines are going to be for what board games can make it into the museum.
Sure.
Kind of our dream list of, this is what we want. If you have it, let's talk type of, situation.
Absolutely.
But we haven't per se started our collection yet.
Sure.
But we're definitely working towards that, and we'd love for people to donate. Work with people on donating their games to the museum if we see it fit.
Sure. Well, that sounds great. Is there, so maybe you haven't secured any donations yet. Is there like one thing that you think just absolutely needs to be in this museum?
Oh, definitely. I think we'll start the National Board Game Hall of Fame.
Sure.
So I'm picturing you walk down this ginormous hallway and there's all these board games and, behind glass with like velvet carpet and lights on it. And when you're walking at your feet, you're going to see the kind of Hollywood Boulevard of stars, but they're going to be board game designers. And maybe the symbol, just kind of like on the Hollywood Boulevard, where they have like, if they're in TV, they have a little TV symbol. If they're, movies, they have a little reel. Maybe we'll like make symbols for each designer based on like their most used mechanic that they use in a game or something. I don't know. But I definitely want to do that. I want there to be a big kind of gaming portion of the museum where we can host national tournaments for games. And obviously the most space is going to be the exhibit space, where we have our rotating exhibits. And I want to focus on the classics. The classics kind of get some hate sometimes, but I want to focus on the classics, but I also want to focus on modern games too. I think it's kind of going to be, there's going to be a timeline and, seeing board games and how they've evolved through our history, but we don't want to just go up to Catan. We want to focus on even more modern games than that. So I'm very excited for this, and I think a lot of gamers are going to be really interested in seeing where this takes off.
Sure. Well, I mean, listen, I can say I am already excited to see where it goes. And you haven't really, you don't have Artifact 1 yet, so, and I'm all in. So this is a super cool project. I can tell you, some group of us will certainly be there within the first months of operation once you get that done, because I'm pretty hype about it. Linda, what are your thoughts on this? Do you have any questions for Erin?
This sounds just so interesting. Unfortunately, I can't seem to take off my educator hat. One of the things I was wondering is, did you have any consideration for any kind of online component for those that maybe couldn't travel there easily? My first thought was, like, there's another podcast that I've listened to where there's a middle school or high school teacher that does teach board game design. And my first thought was, oh my goodness, if she can't do a field trip there, if it's too far, could she do a virtual field trip? And so I don't know if that's anything you've considered, that piece of, like, the virtual piece of the museum.
Yeah, I have actually not considered that too much. So, I mean, obviously I want the museum to have an educational component for sure, but I haven't thought about, like, people who can't make it, how we make an interactive kind of online experience too. That's a really good point, and I'm going to make note of that. And I think having just, like, some assets for them to use or print out, or and maybe some, like, videos that we create on our website that they can pull up on their projector or something, that would be really cool.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, so I love that you brought that up.
Thank you. That just sounds so interesting, with being able to, cull together these different components. So I don't really have any. Steve did just an amazing job of asking all the questions that came to mind. So. Oh
wow! Isn't that's very nice of you, Linda? Thank you.
Well, you're welcome.
It's almost like I'm a podcast host. I met the minimum.
Like you've done this once or twice.
I met the minimum requirements for being a podcast host. I asked a bunch of questions. Well, it doesn't hurt that this is the kind of stuff I mean, I've been to a museum or two. I was never brave enough to try and create one. That's a rare breed of human being. Fortunately, I was able to get one of those people on my podcast. So so for those that are interested in learning more about it, where should they go, Erin? Let's say they want to get on a mailing list or something. What should they do?
Yeah, whether you want to just stay updated with the museum or you want to be more involved, whether that's on a volunteer basis or donating games or whatever it may be, you can go to boardgamemuseum.org and join our mailing list, where we will be updating you on our process and where we're at. We also encourage you to join our social media pages. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and our social media handle is Museum for Games. So that's Museum FOR Games. And as far as if you want to, kind of ask us any questions or anything like that, you can message us via social media, or there's a contact us button on our website where you can reach out to us, and that goes straight to me, where I can answer any questions you have. And if you want to get more involved, we'll be able to do that as well.
Sure.
And I can speak firsthand. I already have subscribed to the mailing list. It took about 20 seconds. It was very easy.
Yes, it's right there when you go to the homepage. So, yep, we're trying.
It's literally a giant red button, folks. You can't.
And we are going to be, updating the website as we go. Right now, we just have a landing page, pretty much, in a contact form. But it's something where we can kind of point people to at this point.
Sure. Well, listen, it all sounds great to me. This is obviously going to be the long game. This doesn't need to get done next week. Number one, I want to say, as this project goes forward, I would love to have you on again, so that we can talk about it as it progresses. Because I think this is a super interesting idea, and like, what better family activity would there be than heading down to a board game museum? That just sounds awesome to me. As a big fan of the Video Game Hall of Fame, which I still haven't gone to, I need to fix that. A Board Game Hall of Fame sounds pretty awesome to me. Can't wait to see what gets put in there. I'm going to interrupt my gushing. Because another thing popped into my head. You're going to have a Monopoly exhibit, right?
I think Monopoly will be in the museum. I don't know if it'll have an entire exhibit. But I think if we could get like an.
I think
Go ahead.
you and I are probably meaning to exhibit in a very different way. I mean, like, it's going to have a presence. Like, we're not going to erase it.
Oh no.
Okay.
We're gonna welcome it, and we're gonna acknowledge that it existed and does exist, and how it definitely changed the industry. That's for sure.
Sure. I mean, I read a book. What was the book? I took it out of a local library, and it was a story about, it's obvious, like, crazy history. It'd be interesting if you could get your hands on one of the old, pre-Monopoly versions. Who knows? The sky's the limit on this, right? Like, who knows when you have a door that people can shove stuff in. You never, you know what I mean? Like, this is how museums work. You really don't know what artifacts people have and are willing to part ways with when they know
Right.
that it's going to go somewhere useful and be taken care of by someone who is responsible. And
Right.
clearly, you have demonstrated a passion for board games. You're not doing this for profit, right? Like, you're doing this because this is what you have to do, and because it's something that needs to exist. So you never know. This is going to be crazy, Linda, right? Like, in 3-4 years, when this is shaping up, like, you know what I mean? It's going to be crazy. We're going to walk through these doors, and it's going to be amazing. I can't wait.
And
Go ahead.
I don't, I think a lot of museums, not sometimes the founders aren't necessarily passionate about what the museum celebrates. And, with our museum, it's purely coming out of passion and, gamers coming together to create something that will last more than our lifetime, to preserve games and celebrate games and celebrate this awesome hobby I'm a part of.
Love it. Absolutely love it. That's a real good way to kind of button all that up. I can't wait. I can't wait to come visit it. Plus, I hear St. Louis has some good barbecue. You can't see me, but I don't turn down good food. So
I'll recommend one to you.
Oh, listen,
Okay. So,
yeah, let me hear it. Let me hear. Where am I supposed to go?
most people say Pappy's Smokehouse.
Okay.
I would recommend Honey Pit Barbecue.
Honey
and
Pit?
Kirk Honey
I'm
Pit.
writing it down.
Okay. Thank you, Linda.
It's really,
notes.
really good.
'Cause
And
now-
it's
Okay.
new, and
Oh.
I've been impressed. That's for sure.
Fair enough. Listen, I mean, discerning tastes. I got to listen to the locals. Here's the good news. The good news is, now that we know there's good barbecue there and we have a recommendation from a local, that means that John will come with us.
It works.
So, I mean,
Family road trip.
And then, exactly, then it turns into a family road trip, and then it's not just work. We can, listen. This is an important part of what Linda and I do, is we figure out ways to manipulate our families to come with us so that we don't feel bad that we're abandoning them. This is the strategy. We just do
Right.
it while we're being recorded because we're dumb. And, well, I'm dumb. Linda's not dumb.
I was going to say, I didn't spill the beans on this.
Mainly, it's for the lulls. I mean, it's just, sometimes you just got to make people laugh, even if it makes you look stupid. That's like my philosophy behind life. So, Erin, it has been a pleasure having you on our show. You've been a great guest.
This has been so much fun, and I rarely do interviews where there's two people interviewing me, and I just love it. I've loved this experience, and I really appreciate you inviting me to be on this show.
Well, listen, we love having guests back. So anytime if you decide to do some other board game project. Maybe you decide to like open a board game themed restaurant or something. I don't know. At this point, the sky's the limit with you because you don't like being bored, and you're going to be done with this book eventually.
Yep.
By all means, if you have more board game crap that you want to promote, I want you to come on the show. So please send me a Facebook message, okay?
Sounds great. That sounds like a plan.
All right, so, folks, that has been episode 150 of Engage, a family gaming podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening as much as the three of us enjoyed recording it. We're going to be back next week. It's going to be another board game week. Bum, bum, bum. Because Linda is going to the BFIG, and so is one Rob Kalajian. So the three of us are going to come, and I'm going to talk to them about the games that they saw. And then it'll probably be back to alternating. So next full disclosure, next week going to be board games again. Yeah, I'm pretty excited because unfortunately I'm missing BFIG for the first time in several years. But I have a wedding to go to and I couldn't get out of it. I tried really hard, Erin. I tried.
Oh, did you?
I was like, honey, it's for work. It's for work. This is my job. Engaged Family Gaming is. And she was like, it's a family wedding. I'm not going alone. But honey, it's for work. So what you're saying is you want to spend more time with Linda than with me?
Oh, wow.
At which point I was like, nope, going to the wedding. Going to the wedding. No disrespect, Linda. But I wasn't
None taken.
I wasn't gonna catch a beat down. Not a literal one, but she is Italian. She'd let me have it. The general doesn't put up with that kind of malfeasance. So next week, board games again, specifically BFIG. So definitely keep your eyes out on that. I do have one favor for everybody. So everybody knows somebody who needs to listen to this show. They don't know that they need to listen to this show, maybe, but you know that they need to listen to this show. Do what you got to do politely to put it in front of them. Send them the link in Facebook. Send them in Twitter. I don't know. Write it on a napkin and leave it on their desk. Don't really care. EngageFamilyGaming.com/podcast. Get it in front of them. The goal is we're just trying to grow our audience. A bigger audience means we can do bigger things. Maybe we can do live shows at conventions. Maybe we get to go do more stuff. Who knows? Maybe we'll do a live show at the National Board Game Museum when they open. Who knows? Right? Obviously, we got to be big to do that. So help us out. Put our name in front of one person this week. Just one. Don't go crazy. All right? So thank you very much for that. With all that said, this is Steven and Linda and Erin. We're signing off, and we want to remind you to don't forget to get your family game on. We'll see you next week. Bye.
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 Thank you for listening to Engage, a family gaming podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. Tune in next week.
And with that, this is Steven and Linda and Erin. We're signing off this week, and we want to remind you to make sure that you get. Sorry, John. How do I screw up the ending? I haven't screwed up the ending of this podcast in like a month. More than that, like months. I've never screwed that up. Okay, so how did I screw up the closing? Of all the things to screw up, Erin, you got to believe me. I know that it's weird. Of course, I'm going to say, no, this never happens. But
I mean, your track record is not that great with me, so
I know, right? I mean, you've lost all. I've lost all credibility. I've never screwed up the closing since I wrote it down. I literally have a script.
Oh man.